This is Next Radio 2017 with Broadcast Bionics.
Hello, as Matt said, I'm Dave, CTO at Folder Media. Also, Pint of Beer if you'd like to follow me on Twitter. I'm here to talk about Upload Radio, but before I do, I'd like to remind you what Matt said about 3 years ago in 2014 at Next Radio.
Hello, I'm Matt. I'm from Folder Media, and I want to tell you a secret. And I regard you all as 250 of my closest friends. And you can tell friends your secret. And what we've come up with is this. A new service called Upload Radio. It's a radio station.
So, as Matt was just saying, Upload Radio is a broadcast radio station. We broadcast on DAB in 3 areas, in Surrey and South London, Gloucester, and Wrexham, Chester, and Liverpool. And basically the concept is people pay 20 quid, they upload their radio show, they select a slot that they wanted to go out on, and then we moderate the show, check it's compliant with Ofcom rules and regulations, and then we broadcast it, and it goes out obviously on DAB and online, and is also available in Radio Player for 30 days on catch-up. 3 years later, this year, April 2017, we finally launched. Hurrah! A long time coming. So in the next 10 minutes or so, or shorter than that, as I can see on the screen, I'm going to quickly run through Upload Radio and hopefully impart some learnings for you for working on larger projects. So the big elephant in the room, why did it take so long? That was what Matt shouted at me most days. I think the main thing was that it was a far bigger and more complex project than we initially realised. There were essentially no off-the-shelf tools that we could use to make this thing. We were essentially building an e-commerce platform and a playout system all rolled into one. And that was quite a bit of work. Even WordPress couldn't be made to do this. And believe me, we've made WordPress do lots and lots of things it was not meant to do. Okay, fine, but shouldn't it still happen sooner? Of course it should. As a famous programmer once said, what went well and what went less well. Keep Matt quiet for longer. We probably shouldn't have announced it quite as early as we did. 3 years in the making was quite a long time for people to wait. More investment up front would have almost certainly helped. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, though. On the positives, what went well, we had a really clear vision, and that undoubtedly helped. We spent a lot of time working on the UX flows, and if we hadn't have spent the time we spent on that, it would have taken far longer. So, value of a clear vision, vitally important for us. And determination. It was a large project. There were many times when we thought, should we give up? But we carried on. So yes, it took a while, but that also had some benefits for us. In that time, there was growth in the podcasting sector, and naturally that's a prime market for us to exploit. In that time also there was improvements in audio production software, so that's brilliant for us because it makes it easier to onboard our customers. So the geek stuff, what tools did we use to build the thing? It's built entirely in PHP. We used a framework called Silex to do that. For those in the know, that's a cut-down version of a larger framework called Symfony. And on the tech end, we used AWS for all of our development. So we used EC2 as the server, and Lambda we used to generate all our waveforms. So when you upload content to Upload Radio, we automatically generate a waveform for that. We use RDS for databases, S3 for audio files, and SES to send out all of our emails. I checked this morning, and we're currently sitting on about 19,129 lines of code, which in large projects is probably quite small, but that's all of our own code, obviously. I'd like to think the conciseness of that code is probably down to how well it's written, clearly. We used a platform called Stripe to handle payments. We've used many things in the past, like PayPal, etc., but I can't speak highly enough of Stripe. It was very easy to use, and they are not paying me. We used RCS to do all of our playouts, and their playout system called Zeta. Again, brilliant system, highly recommend. And we feed that a version of Radio EPG, which is like an XML feed of all our content, and that gets pumped into Zeta, and it generates all the playout. points. And obviously, we use Radio Player APIs to provide Radio Player with our on-demand content. So very briefly, I just want to think about the customer. In radio, I think it's quite easy to detach yourself from like the individual listener. But for us, our customer is obviously the uploader, and the individual customer is very, very important. So things to consider, we obviously want them to come back. That is crucial. So we want them to enjoy the process of uploading their show to Upload Radio. So we want to make that as seamless as possible. So obviously the system needs to work. But on top of that, we need to make sure that any issues with the system are dealt with very quickly. So we're always keeping an eye on any emails we get in and working on any updates we need to make as quickly as possible. On top of that, we try to give value-added feedback. So when someone uploads their show to Upload, we don't just say, oh yes, that show's Ofcom compliant. We also give them feedback on top of that and give them pointers on how they might improve their show in future. And we found that's very valuable, and people seem to really like that. So, how's it gone so far? Well, is the short answer. Kind of how we expected. People are reusing the system. They seem to enjoy the process of uploading their show and it being heard on the proper radio. So, what's next? Well, I think just spending a bit more time on marketing. So, that's where you guys come in. In the program, you'll find a voucher code which will allow you to have your first show free on Upload Radio. What will be your first show? Now, for me, I've got a passion in new music, but don't really have an interest in being a presenter, as you can probably tell by this presentation. So I produce this thing called the Friday Lunchtime Playlist, but instead of me talking through the tracks, I get the artists themselves to introduce their songs. It sounds a bit like this.
Greetings from planet Earth. This is Dumbboy here, and you're listening to my new song, Her, on the Friday Lunchtime Playlist.
Hey, this is Kane Strang, and you're listening to My Smile is Extinct on the Friday Lunchtime Playlist.
Yes, she is the best I've ever had. Stay from them swoops Australia. With a song called All Right For Me on Friday Lunchtime Playlist, baby.
But of course, you don't have to do a music show. We've got Kerry Jones, I believe he's in the audience somewhere. He already had a travel podcast, and by putting his podcast on Upload Radio, gaining a greater audience, he could then go and get more free holidays. So that works well for him. But on top of that, we have other things like this. Sorry, press that bit too soon. The Age of Music, a father and son show where they battle it out to decide who's got the best taste in music, which sounds quite cool.
Now, you were dancing to my song, so I think I might be winning. What do you think?
No.
The Age of Music show, where you decide who has a better taste in music, Dave or
8-year-old Noah.
coming up next.
Or perhaps you've got a particular interest in an underserved genre of music, like doo-wop.
What is doo-wop music? Well, this is. And so is this. Doo-wop is a genre of mostly African-American music. There were some white groups too from the United States, popularized in the 1950s and into the early 1960s. Some of the greatest songs of all time by some of the best vocalists of all time. And we'll celebrate that with a full hour of great doo-wop music coming up next hour with me, Gene Baxter, here on Upload Radio.
So yeah, we've got loads of content on Upload Radio, and I think that's for me been the lovely thing about it, is the variety of content we've got from all walks of life, lots of different people uploading their different things. Just very quickly, Trevor Dan does a show called And Vinely, where he plays his favourite vinyl tracks. Ian Lee has got a show on there, Cornucopia Radio, a storytelling show. Lots of great things like that. Chris Country, so existing radio stations that want to reach a larger audience. And very quickly, just want to finish on some final thoughts, some things to take away. Persevere. I think the big learning for us was that if we had given up, it would have been a major mistake. And remember, it's not just about the destination. You learn a lot of things along the way that will help you with other projects. And that's me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.